Hey, so I'm hoping no one's ever going to see this. I'm uploading it to my YouTube channel. Doesn't really have that many viewers normally, but I would hate for people to stumble across this. However, it is a need to do, as will be explained. So I'm embarking on the idea of a PhD soon, and I'm in the stages of initial idea development and research. And the area that I've started my focus on before I've even applied for a PhD while life is being organised. I'm trying to get the background done, so once I have stability in my life, I can go forward with an application of something I feel confident in. The idea is a study of film language and its development into the internet age, and how YouTube particularly uses film language and has changed what film language means now, and how that feeds back into the cinema and TV industries. How cultural exchanges of visual language have evolved online, and then cinema has taken that. Whereas in the past, it would have been more like we started with cinema, language evolved. We talk about montage as a language. That's one example. There's a whole bunch of research for me to brush up on. It's been a few years since I've studied this. But so we would have cinema language, which became something audiences grew to understand. They knew what a cut from a long shot to a close up meant, essentially. They're not wondering why suddenly that person's big. They know that actually we're just looking at detail. We know that someone looking off to the side of the screen and then a shot of something completely different is probably what that person's looking at. It's inherent knowledge given to us by cinema convention. And we've moved forward in time. We've got a television industry which established its own way of using that language visually, developing its own techniques. Cinema's continued in the meantime, new languages evolved. And now we're in a digital age, and particularly in the COVID age, we've got a lot of new things happening. There's the whole language of memes on YouTube. People see images and certain ways of cutting or distorting an image, and that means something to them. There's a language behind it. Or COVID has given us the idea that we just know the visual representation of a particular time in world history. There are lots of cases of this, but this is such a visual one. People are wearing a mask. We know what it means. We know why they're wearing a mask. Maybe two characters in a drama will be standing 2 meters apart. We don't need a context to that. We don't need someone telling us why that's happening. We understand they're wearing masks, they're 2 meters apart. It's because it's in 2020. A Zoom call, there's been dramas on television particularly. I'm thinking of that thing with David Tennant and Michael Sheen. I can't remember the name of it, but they're rehearsing a play over Zoom, and the whole episode takes place on Zoom. It's a black screen with varying sized webcam shots of the celebrities, of the actors, talking to each other. In some cases side by side, in some cases three people on screen. Again, visually we understand it. We know what it means. Most of us I would say, this particular demographic use Zoom in our daily lives at the moment to function for work. I understand a lot of people might be confused by it. A lot of people don't use Zoom. A lot of people don't use computers even to that extent. But for the most part of the audience of that TV show, they know what Zoom is, and they know what that black screen with different people talking at you means. There is no explanation. There's no moment at the start of the show with a bit of text saying this was recorded on Zoom, or this is what a Zoom call looks like. We know it. It's a language to us. And so my idea for research is to continue delving into where evolutions in visual language have occurred, where they have continued into the digital era, and particularly I'm interested in finding out where they've fed back into film. Film is my background academically and professionally, so it's the area that I feel most comfortable talking about. And to be honest, I think I would struggle to justify to any university why I should be allowed to do a PhD in a field I don't understand. Going in from a film angle is my area entirely. It's where I'm most suited. I'm not a linguist. I'm not one that would talk about language normally, but a visual language and a cinema language are areas that I can talk about at length. So I want to see how these visual languages that have evolved on online spaces or in online spaces or in other areas of life, TikTok would be a great example, a portrait style video of a short clip with a particular audio backdrop, without context or narrative in most cases. again, is something that feeds back into films. We've seen definitely in the last decade or so films that are based entirely on a Skype call, for example. There was that horror film. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to look that up. Where there was a group chat on Skype, and gradually, one by one, the participants were picked off. Again, like my example with David Tennant's and Michael Sheen's Zoom call, the visual language of that Skype call was a given. We understand it. It's not as advanced as talking about the development of a whole set of language like montage or like cinematography techniques or particular framing angles. It's a little bit more simplistic than that. It's instant visuals. However, the YouTube aspect of this I think is particularly interesting because there's a whole set of cultural understanding as well as the visual techniques. There are visual elements, visual story fragments, visual appearances of particular faces or particular tropes or memes that mean a lot to very specific audiences or indeed very wide audiences now. So the reason I'm recording this video is to give myself a chance to just speak and just get everything out. Writing is a great way to do this. I have a lot of Evernote particles, notes lying around in the application, but I find it sometimes a little bit inhibiting. I will write one sentence and get carried away with the beauty of the sentence and get distracted from the points I was thinking beforehand. I haven't written a great set of notes perhaps that are guiding me into what I want to say. So allowing myself a space to just babble like this gives me an excellent opportunity to process through everything that's running through my mind in a very free-form kind of way for something for me to view back later. The reason I'm uploading it onto YouTube is a little bit to combat imposter syndrome and a little bit to engage with YouTube a bit more intentionally as well. So if I'm to be talking about YouTube engagement and the feeding of YouTube language into other areas of life, I need to be active in my use of YouTube. I need to be part of the participatory culture, an excellent phrase that I'm going to be using a lot, I think, in my research. I need to be creating content. I have created content in the past. There are little bits and pieces on my channel. I've created a lot more content professionally that is not on my channel. It's around and about in various organizations and industries and in one case on a hard drive in a drawer, never to see the light of day. So I understand content creation. What I don't understand or engage with is regular uploaded content to YouTube. I want to be part of the YouTube culture. I do have one other project as well on the back burner, which is very much in line with this idea about creating something for YouTube. But that is, it's not something I'm going to discuss at all yet because it's very much in the works with someone and it might well change. I might have to think of another idea. But generally, it's a very manicured piece of work, a very carefully crafted and planned piece of work that will be uploaded regularly with a mind to actually attracting an audience. This style of video, where I'm just talking to the camera, is very much the opposite of that. It is not at all crafted or planned. It's very dry. In the future, I might give it more time and actually give you some graphics and some little cuts and things. But it's just to engage with the idea of YouTube developing as a vlogging platform as well. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking to a camera for that very reason. Some of the case studies that I will be drawing on do rely on the much more successful vlogging styles and the much more heavily curated vlogging styles. I'm thinking particularly of something like Davey504, the bassist. I'll be putting a link on this video for that, and I'll be continuing to do at least that much work with these videos. Whenever I mention a particular thing, whether it be a bit of reading or a case study from YouTube itself, I'll be linking to it for my purposes. I mean, it might be interesting to the one person that ever views this, but for me it's going to be really useful to hear myself babble and then think, oh yeah, I forgot to look that thing up, so I'll put that in. The reason I'll be studying something like Davey504 and hopefully a few more vloggers, a few more personalities, particularly personalities my wife's introduced me to, she watches a few of these, is that the visual style they use is exactly an example of the sort of thing I'm talking about. Davey504 in particular uses a lot of sharp editing, He distorts a lot of the camera shots. We'll get very fast transitions from a wide shot to an extreme close-up on his face, but not through moving the camera, just through expanding the view and distorting the image intentionally, which is a massive no-no usually, but in this case is very appropriate. There are some tropey graphics he uses for expressing sadness, water on the screen, tears. He has a few visual gimmicks he uses, etc. And that all feeds into a sense of when you're watching one of his videos, you know what's going on, you know what these things mean. He can reuse them and repeat them without having to give them much context, and in fact draws humour from them being out of context sometimes. So it's an entirely different way of filming and presenting yourself to a more traditional TV or film aesthetic. Someone who would film themselves giving a news interview would never dream of just exploding the camera size right up to gain an extreme close-up from a medium shot. No, that camera needs to move or change lens, generally. The fact it's distorted and grainy gives us a new sense of the punk aesthetic. That's an important word I want to remember to come back to, and in fact I'm going to write that down right now, punk. It's the idea that content creators are no longer bound by economy or their financial situation. They're not bound by access to technology to a large degree. They need very basic equipment to achieve it now. And it feels to me particularly very much like the punk aesthetic, both in terms of fashion and music. DIY creation. Musicians aren't high and mighty and untouchable, talented bastions of culture anymore. They're a kid in gross jeans that have more holes than fabric, and picked up a guitar one day and learned a couple of chords. They made music and they got very successful doing it. And success is not necessarily the point of it, but is definitely a factor that comes out of it. There is such a thing as a YouTube celebrity, which is quite something. So I want to wrap this first video up because I am rambling a lot. But one thing I will be doing is hopefully, I have a habit of starting things like blogs and then never going back to them, but hopefully I'll be uploading one of these every time I've done a bit of reading at least. So this one comes off the back of a bit of reading I just did. I found a very fantastic article, Anatomy of a YouTube Meme by Shifman from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. In this article, Shifman talks about, first of all, what is a meme, and draws back on the idea of Richard Dawkins and in fact earlier people talking about ideas that exist in culture and propagate, and then bringing it into the YouTube and internet age for what we know now commonly as a meme, as an idea or a visual idea or a joke or a sketch or a item or a picture, anything that becomes immediately replicated by larger and larger audiences. It's the opposite of a viral. It's not the opposite necessarily, but it's different to viral. Viral would be one video that becomes incredibly successful, Gangnam Style. Maybe there are replications of Gangnam Style, but the most famous one is Gangnam Style. A viral video hits huge levels of success. A meme video, in particular, we're talking about YouTube specifically now, is a video which has a legacy of replication. Downfall is the example that Shifman uses right at the start of their article. There are countless Downfall memes, parodies, whatever you want to call them. There's the original Downfall movie, and Hitler is ranting about his impending defeat. And then there are the parodies of that, which surfaced online, where basically it's the same scene. It's exactly ripped out of the movie, but the subtitles have been changed to make a joke out of what Hitler's ranting about. Hitler might be ranting about the Beatles. I don't understand the Beatles. Or Hitler might be ranting about the wrong kind of birthday cake, or the fact that Ronaldo signed up to the wrong team. There are myriad of these replications of that scene, and that's what we mean by meme. And in fact, Shifman goes on to talk about the next level of that, which is the meta meme. The meme, the recreation of that meme, but talking explicitly about the fact it's a meme. So in this Downfall example, Shifman talks about, or in fact includes a script from one of those very videos where Hitler is ranting about the fact that there are too many downfall memes, and this is not what he had planned for the web and for participatory culture, just to create shallow jokes about the same thing over and over again. So the meta meme is another part of the essay that Shifman created. And Shifman, the really interesting thing from this article, and the thing I need to come back to in my own research, is the research methods. Shifman's very methodical and created a dual phase approach to identifying which videos would feature into this discussion on YouTube memes. I'm just trying to find the two phases again, but I haven't for me to refer back to anyway. But it was essentially creating categories of what the videos made. Oh, here we are, a list of candidate mimetic videos. So popularity measurements and YouTube user playlists. So first, the popularity measurements, as noted above. So YouTube employs various measurements for different types of popularity. There are all-time popularity ones, including most viewed, most responded, most discussed, and most favorited. The videos that Shifman researched had to fall into 3 of the 4 categories. Following that, they would then scour through user playlists. Why did those videos that fall into those categories also appear in user playlists? Shifman was able to sample from user-generated playlists of videos that exist on YouTube that specifically deal with memes, that specifically deal with those repeated ideas and jokes. And then it went through a process of taking the shortlist that came out of the two-phase approach and searching through or watching through with a team of coders. I'm not sure what that term refers to, but from context I gather it's a group of people who are responsible for looking through these videos and finding particular things. So the coders would look for different themes that would be present in terms of gender or workplace or humor, and different approaches in creating the video. How professional were they? How DIY were they? How simple were they? And then from that was able to conduct research on the list of 30 videos that were created from that coming through, and pared down the common facets between them, what generally makes a successful mimetic video on YouTube. And the thing I found really useful for that, for my own ideas about talking about language, are the ideas of these common tropes that came out of it, these ideas that all these videos contained, for example, flawed masculinity, humour and simplicity. I think they were 3 out of 6 categories that Shifman came out with. These are fantastically interesting ideas because these are themes that we can see in other forms of media as well, and we can discuss how they are represented and broken down and become part of a cultural understanding that we don't actually address. We see an image and we understand what the image is. Why is that? What are the common factors between the types of image that we understand best and the types of image we avoid using for communication? What is the best way of showing us one piece of information? Is there a common thread between what that might be? I think that's a good avenue for discussion. What ideas can be used to describe ideas visually? Do we avoid any particular visual cues for any particular reasons? Have we landed on the system of languages and meanings that we have because they were always going to go that way? Or did someone decide this is the best way to do it and it became a visual language meme in itself? Is visual language mimetic in that respect? And if so, who gets to create it? Cinema language would have been created by the pioneers of cinema who had access to the equipment, but also the artistic integrity to create great works that have stood the test of time, that have become a legacy, and people have remembered and referred back to. YouTube language is much more user-generated, I would say. There are a few corporations and big names that get to come in and create this viral masterpiece, like Gangnam Style, but the mimetic videos also dictate what language happens on YouTube, and in fact feeds us back to something like Davey504, where he's using a lot of language that has come from a whole tradition of YouTube by then. So users are generating a style of language that other users are then becoming successful with. Let's look at the common themes in there. Let's look at how that is mimetic. how an industry gets to create itself, essentially. And then from there, we should then think about what are the gatekeepers of cinema now taking from that? What is allowed to enter cinema? Is anything explicitly stopped from entering cinema? Is there any online language that we will never see in a movie? So I'm going to leave this video there because I'm running out of things to say, and that is a lot of waffling on. 20 minutes? Wow. So let's end it there. What I'm going to do now is start watching just a bunch of rubbish on YouTube, because a lot of the name drops in this article about mimetic videos on YouTube have reminded me of things I have not seen in many, many years. And in fact, a few I would like to see for the first time. All right. Cheers.